Okay, hello and welcome to the video. This should be brief. I'm not exactly sure what Donald Trump's real net worth is because it hasn't been recalculated in light of the fact that people have sued him over frivolous lawsuits for half of his entire net worth in the past several years, and judges, for some reason, think that criticizing somebody is worth $300 million now. But if Donald Trump gave his entire net worth, divided it up, and gave it to the American people, it would probably only come to about $10 per person or less. All right, because he's probably only worth about 4 billion or so, give or take a few. But uh, so what do you want to do with all the money you think you're going to take away from the billionaires and now trillionaire Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos? What do you think you're going to do with that money? It's not as much money as you think it is. If you took all of the billionaires and the two trillionaires in the United States and divided all their money up between all of the people in the United States, it would be less than $1,000 a person. And of course, 40% of you are addicted to cigarettes, and 40% of you are addicted to alcohol, and several percent of you are addicted to hard illegal drugs such as meth and cocaine. And that's, of course, where you're going to blow it all. So, what would be the point in dividing up all the billionaires' money and giving it to you? And believe me, I'm not rich. I'm poor. I'm poor as dirt myself. I'm medically disabled. But what would be the point in dividing up all the rich people's money and giving it to everybody? It's not as much money as you think. Most of you can't even count to a billion. And you definitely can't count to a trillion. And you definitely can't divide by 400 million or however many. Let's see what the U.S. population is right now. I've heard it estimated at 400 million counting immigrants. But let's go to google.com and look it up exactly. This says it's 340 million as of last year. All right, so let's say it's 340 million. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's been stuck at 320 million for a long time now. Might be true because there are so many abortions going on that the population doesn't grow in the United States anymore. So that might be true. Because everybody likes to murder their babies instead of raise their babies now. But uh yeah, so let's say if Donald Trump's net worth was $7 billion and he divided it equally among all Americans, that would be $20 per person. And so that's enough to buy 2 packs of cigarettes for cigarette smokers to blow it on, and which, of course, that's the very first thing cigarette smokers do when you give them a $20 bill is go buy 2 packs of cigarettes. The very first thing they're going to do is go spend it on cigarettes. It's why I don't give somebody a bottle of over-the-counter medicine and if they ask me for Tylenol or something like that, and there's somebody I don't know that's not in my personal family, I don't give them the bottle because the last time I did that, someone took about 15 extra strength ibuprofen out of the bottle all at once and swallowed them faster than I could grab the stuff back from them. And I told him, I was like, you shouldn't. It's like if I knew you were going to take that many, I wouldn't have given it to you. Because if I knew you were going to not take it by the instructions, I wouldn't have given it to you. But that's how addicts are. They'll just gulp anything down. And you can't teach some people. They spent in the 80s and 90s, they spent all that money trying to teach you not to addict yourself to cigarettes and alcohol and drugs. And the very first thing Americans went out and did is addict themselves twice that much more to cigarettes and alcohol and drugs. So, I don't want a what is this guaranteed income? I don't want guaranteed income because the American people are just going to blow it on drugs and alcohol like they do with everything else they get. All that stimulus money that people got during the pandemic, they probably ended up blowing that on drugs and alcohol. They spent a couple $1 trillion, then they spent another $1 trillion on the Inflation Reduction Act. How do you spend money to reduce inflation? I don't know, but it doesn't work. And it didn't work. In fact, it increased inflation. There was some kind of a preacher or prophet or whatever he called himself on the internet explaining that he had a dream that he said was from God, in which he went to a bank to try to get change for quarters for change, and the bank told him that the U.S. was no longer minting coins because they were it wasn't worth it to mint coins anymore because the dollar had inflated so much that coins were worthless. And he asked, "Well, how was I supposed to make change?" And the teller at the bank in the dream told him to round everything up to the nearest dollar. That still hasn't come quite to pass yet, but it's about to, because they just started rounding up pennies to 5 cents. And they're going to start rounding to the nearest dollar pretty soon at the grocery store and at fast food places. Rounding up to the nearest dollar because coins are going to be worthless. Wait for it. I'll second that. I didn't have that specific dream from God or anything, but I'll second that and just wait for it. I had a dream one time, and it's already come to pass, about the price of concrete going skyrocketing, and it's going to get even worse. You're going to be paying $8 for a box of cereal. We're already paying $5 or $6 for a box of cereal. It's going to get to $8 within the next couple of years for a small box of cereal. I'm not talking about a real family size box of cereal. I'm talking about a small box of cereal. It's going to be $8 a box. Keep raising the minimum wage on unskilled workers. You can't pay somebody $20 an hour to flip burgers at Burger King or McDonald's. But for some reason, the governor of California, the unqualified governor of California, thought that raising the minimum wage in California to $20 an hour. I mean, my father was a master carpenter, and he didn't make $20 an hour half the time because people wouldn't pay for a house. And now they want to pay somebody that doesn't even have a high school diploma $20 an hour to flip burgers at Burger King or McDonald's. A lifetime of skill in a real skill that affects people's living versus no skills whatsoever, you know, it makes no sense that you're going to pay an unskilled person the same income as a highly skilled person. And claim that if you don't do it, that the highly skilled person must be a tyrant. How about start yourself off at the bottom like everybody else and work your way up? And don't tell me it can't be done. I mean, uh, my brother barely graduated high school, to be honest with you, and he's now got every certification in blue collar work that there is, up to boilermaker, and he's a supervisor over the welders and boilermakers for all these plants throughout the country. And he also does something on the side that's related to the lumber industry that I'm not going to tell you any more specific details in that because it's kind of a trade secret. But he makes over $200,000 a year now. And I want to say that he graduated with like a D GPA. D as in dog, not B as in boy. And I'm not denigrating him or anything. I'm just saying that he busted his tail as far as working his way up through um the trades over the years. So if you have children and you can't support your children, the onus is on you to get a job and support your children. And if you call yourself a Christian, for people who claim to be Christians, if you call yourself a Christian, the Apostle Paul said in one of his epistles that a man who doesn't provide for those of his own household is worse than an infidel. And I realize there's disabilities, but we're not talking about disabled people. 1 in 8 people in the United States is not disabled, and isn't elderly either. You can't run a government by paying for every poor person's needs that doesn't even pay taxes. Not only do they not get paid taxes, but about 1/6 to 1/3, it varies by year, but between 1/6 and 1/3 of all Americans receive a significant earned income credit check. And now it's inflated up to $10,000 a year or so. So you wonder why the federal government is bankrupt. They pay you money when every other government in world history prior to this generation used to tax everybody the same rate, 10% on everything and 20% on silver and 10% on gold. Is what the New England Charter was. Tax season is not supposed to be when the government owes you money. It's supposed to be when you owe the government money for the government protecting you from criminals. But Democrats don't even want to punish criminals anymore. They want criminals to go free. And they want criminals to have free health care and free education and free entertainment while they're in prison. Nothing's free. Let's just go ahead and dispel that myth. Nothing is free. There is no such thing as free in the real universe. So you're always going to have a budget deficit and debt and bankruptcy of the federal government as long as you keep trying to give everybody something for free. That's like the student loan forgiveness. They should not have forgiven student loans and shouldn't do it now either. I went to college twice and didn't pass either time, by the way, because for whatever reason, I just could not pass the advanced classes in college. I was already taking one of the hardest curriculums there is, too, but I passed the introductory classes, but I couldn't pass the advanced stuff. And I paid all my college expenses off. I worked 60 hours a week every week when I had jobs and when I was healthy. I worked 60 hours a week, sometimes more than that. Do you know that most people in the United States were actually wealthier when the minimum wage was 5 to 5.15 an hour? Now that they've increased it to $20 an hour in some states, people are actually poor and can't even pay for their food. And I swear I'm old enough to remember when the minimum wage was $3 an hour, and I think people were wealthier when the minimum wage was $3 an hour, including the people on minimum wage. You used to be able to get a 3-piece white meal, chicken meal from Popeyes, the most expensive chain, fast food chicken chain. You should be able to get a three-piece white with a what was considered a small side and a biscuit and a drink for $2.99. And it was large pieces of chicken, and the side was about twice the size of the side now. The biscuit was bigger than the biscuit they're selling you, and a small drink was 16 ounces. And it was $2.99. You could go into the store and eat at a buffet at Pizza Hut for $5 at an all you can eat buffet back then. And that wasn't that long ago. That was 2001. Because Democrats keep raising the minimum wage. That's like think of it this way. Let's say if minimum wage, let's just use a round number like $10 an hour. If minimum wage in your state was $10 an hour and you happen to already be making $11 an hour, if they raise the minimum wage to $11 an hour, the cost of living goes up by at least 10%. And you didn't get a raise because you already make $11 an hour. And trust me, your boss is not going to give you a dollar raise just because everybody else got one. All right, um, then you actually got hurt by the minimum wage going up. That's how that works. All right. Every time they raise minimum wage, it hurts everybody, including the people who make minimum wage, because the price of everything goes up by that much. I said I can remember. I can remember when you could get canned goods were 5 for $1 or 6 for $1, and a gallon of milk was not even a full dollar. I'm telling you, I remember that, and I'm only 44 years old. And now it's 4.25 a gallon in Louisiana prices. And for the bargain brand milk, it's like $6 a gallon for name brand milk. So I don't even buy the name brand because it comes from a cow. It's milk. I don't pay for labels. I pay for products. I don't buy name brand Tylenol. I don't buy name brand ibuprofen. I don't buy name brand prescription medication because it's a waste of money. It's the exact same chemical molecule. You buy the cheapest one and put the expensive one out of business, or try to anyway. But most of you people don't even think about that. You go into the grocery store or the chemicals aisle. One time, I kid you not, I was at the Family Dollar and I overheard this guy, and I guess it was either his girlfriend or wife, whatever the relationship was, but they were looking at Pine Sol versus a bargain brand on the shelf. And the guy kept telling his wife or girlfriend, whatever she was, that the cheaper brand was exactly the same and the only difference was the price, because he actually read the label. All right. They had the exact same chemical formula and the exact same amounts. And he kept telling her, get the cheaper brand because they're exactly the same thing. And the girl wouldn't listen to him and bought the expensive brand. And then I walked over to the aisle after they both left and looked at the labels because I already knew he was right anyway, but just to reaffirm that they had the exact same formula. And sure enough, he was right. And it was a couple dollars difference for the same size bottle. And if you spend all of your money like that, if you buy a $6 item every time you could have bought it for $4, you will go broke. And that's their goal, is to get every cent out of you because you're buying Clorox bleach and you're buying Pine Sol and you're buying, you know, Coca-Cola products at full price. And the other thing is, buy on sale. Buy it when it's when they reduce the price because it's good. So buy it and don't pay. You don't buy a Thanksgiving turkey the week before Thanksgiving because they jack the prices up. Then buy it some other time when turkey is cheap and put it in your freezer. It makes no sense the way people think about spending money. But yeah, the big one is drugs and alcohol and cigarettes. Americans will just blow all their money on drugs and alcohol and cigarettes. So I agree with Trump on that. It's another time that I agree with him, and I don't always agree with him. But quit blowing your money on illegal drugs and drunkenness and cigarettes. And I know because I've been around them. A cigarette smoker or a drunk or I don't hang around them, but I've been around them before. But a cigarette smoker or a drunk or a drug addict, the very first thing they're going to spend their money on is whatever they're addicted to. And if you give them $20, they will go spend it on their addiction.